I do want to reflect back on the Hershey syrup situation because I did not know that I replicate that film every day in the shower whenever I'm eating Hershey's chocolate syrup.
I thought you were going to say when you have liquid diarrhea in the shower and you're just shitting yourself uncontrollably.
He screams exactly the same as she does, too.
Jesus, Anthony, I'm not gross. I only eat chocolate syrup in the shower. Come on. Oh, fucker.
And we're back.
Hello.
We're back.
Welcome back to God damn it. Welcome back to episode 6. Hang on. Welcome back to episode 16 of Beards and Sundries.
Yay! We're so excited to be here 16 times.
That's right, guys. It's time for another lunch break here at Beards and Sundries, the market where three gay men talk about a new sundry item in each episode.
My name is Jay. And just like Tippi Hedren, I too will risk my life with a bunch of killer birds for an attractive man.
And I'm Anthony, the harpoon coming straight towards your eye that's definitely not connected to a prop wire.
And I'm Joe. And what's that? The phone call's coming from inside me? And that's right, guys. Today's sundry item is slasher movies. That's right, Beardos, we're deep into Spooky Month, and we are going to feature the video rental section of the market today to talk about some of the more well-known slasher films that we all enjoy.
And today, we have a very special guest.
That's right. We would like to introduce our final trainee of 2022. Everyone please welcome our very dear friend and fellow slasher movie lover, Will. Hi, Will.
Hello, guys.
Hello, Will.
Hi, Will.
Hi.
Will is my committed horror movie friend. So we watch all...
Semi-committed.
Well, I mean, you know, I cheat on you from time to time.
That's right. We'll be on the couch hanging out, and I'll highlight something on Netflix, and I'm like, eh? And I look over, and they're both like, no, it wasn't good.
It's like this cute, open horror movie relationship.
Right. Joe, can I find Freddy Krueger's glove in the sundries aisle?
Find his glove, but you won't find the DVD, or the Blu-ray, or the Laserdisc, or the VHS, or the Betamax of the movie itself. That's in the video rental section.
What's a sundry, Joe? God.
Yes! Tell us a sundry, damn it.
God.
That's right, guys. If you're new to our show and you're wondering just what the hell a sundry is, the term comes from an Old English word meaning odds and ends. Now, today it's used mainly in retail as a way to describe items that typically wouldn't have a group of their own. Think like paper towels, bottled water, silverware, paper plates, that kind of thing. Now, for our purposes, as three gay men with beards, we're going to use the term to group together all of the random topics that we talk about.
Wow. Impeccable.
That was fantastic.
Pristine.
So great.
So we are going to get into slasher movies today, but every film that we have today has had a reboot, so there are potential spoilers ahead. Now, not as serious as Hocus Pocus, right, Jay?
That's correct. Not as serious as Hocus Pocus of last week. We will not have a spoilers commercial this week.
Joe, what's our first topic?
We're going to talk about the origins of the slasher genre itself.
Ooh.
Now, I don't know about you guys, but I agree with a lot of mainstream media that agrees that 1960s classic horror film, Psycho, is the very first slasher film.
Yeah, sure. Psycho's an Alfred Hitchcock film, right?
Psycho is an Alfred Hitchcock film.
So I would agree that that's probably the birth of modern day slashers. I mean, as slashers are concerned.
I feel like Alfred Hitchcock was kind of the pioneer of that business, even though my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie is not a slasher, The Birds, because of my intro. I still think he really started that.
Because he drove Tippi Hedren out of Hollywood after that movie, and she couldn't work anymore. Because Alfred Hitchcock is a fucking bastard. So great that he made modern horror, but bad that he's a piece of shit.
She was on an episode of Cougar Town.
She should have just stayed in Bodega Bay.
With the birds?
Yes.
A terrible idea.
That's why he sent her there.
So, no, I feel like that's before you had really a slasher genre and before you had modern slashers, that movie was what that was. It was very intense for the time. Obviously, there's the fun fact that they used chocolate syrup, Hershey's chocolate syrup, for the blood in the shower scene to make it more realistic since it was being filmed in black and white.
Oh.
That's right. The iconic shower scene. It's been duplicated. It's been, what's that word I'm thinking of? Funny, a satire.
Parodied to death.
Parodied to death. Yes, Will, that's right. Now, the original shower scene, Alfred Hitchcock envisioned it to be silent, but the film's composer, Bernard Herrmann, went ahead and scored it anyway, and upon hearing it, Hitchcock immediately changed his mind. He even went further than that. He was so pleased with the score written by Bernard Herrmann that he doubled the composer's salary to $34,501, meaning that 33% of the effect of Psycho was due to the music, he was quoted as saying after.
Wow.
Is that even above poverty level these days?
Barely.
That's amazing. I do want to reflect back on the Hershey syrup situation, because I did not know that I replicate that film every day in the shower whenever I'm eating Hershey's chocolate syrup.
I thought you were going to say when you have liquid diarrhea in the shower and you're just shitting yourself
He
uncontrollably.
screams exactly the same as she does, too.
Jesus, Anthony, I'm not gross. I only eat chocolate syrup in the shower. Come on.
Another fun fact about Alfred Hitchcock that I really enjoyed that kind of made me chuckle and say, I would do that too. Apparently he received an angry letter from the father of a girl who refused to take a shower after seeing this movie, and Hitchcock sent back a note simply saying, send her to the dry cleaners instead.
Ha!
Ha.
Love it.
That's funny.
So the way we're going to do this episode, we're going to have 3 topics. We're going to do 3 decades. We're going to talk about the film, and then we're going to talk about the reboot of the film and whether or not we recommend it.
Ooh, nice. Okay.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Will, prepare to get mad.
Probably.
So we're going to dive into it. We're going to start out with the 70s. And the first one up on the docket is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Absolutely great. Wonderful. No notes.
Now, how terrifying was that movie back then for them?
Oh my gosh. I don't even like watching it, but it's a great movie.
It's still actually scary.
My God. Because it seemed like a true crime movie. It seemed like kind of like Paranormal Activity or kind of like Blair Witch. It was believable. People thought it was still real.
You can watch that film today and it still is scary. It's a scary film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that found footage angle.
Yeah, that scene where he's in the front hallway and he opens the closet and he just gets knocked out with the sledgehammer. My God. And there's no music or sound or anything. Like, how harrowing is that?
Ugh. God, that makes me cringe.
And that crazy family and ugh.
They're kind of one of the only one that does it like that. Every movie, well, there are movies where he dies, but almost every movie he's around to kill more people every time.
Yeah, I do feel like the sequels to that, though, everything else sort of went downhill. Even the second one was, but that original one was, I guess that's probably part of the problem, though, right? Is that first one was done so well. Like, where do you go from?
Yeah, it's hard to rework that so well and to reach so many audiences effectively.
It's been a while since I've watched that one. I should probably watch that this month to kind of refresh my memory on how that movie went.
So then it brings us to the real reboot, which was the 2003 reboot, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
So the real reboot. I like that one.
Who else was in it? Jessica Biel, Jonathan...
Jessica Biel.
Jessica Biel, really, honestly. Everyone else, get dead.
Get dead.
Now, I thought the reboot was really good. At the time, I thought it was shot really well because it was shot as a... Was it shot modern day or was it a period piece?
No, it was period piece.
Was it a period piece?
Yeah, they were still in the 70s.
Okay.
Because it was
Makes
just
sense.
a direct reboot.
Yeah, it was. Like, sort of shot for shot, right?
I thought so too, because they're in that old-fashioned van still. It's kind of like a reimagining. I thought it was great. I recommend it.
It's been ages since I've seen that one, too. Good God.
It's good.
It is good. It's not a bad reboot. It's just one of those things where, like, it's sort of a shot-for-shot thing. So, like, just watch the original, unless you want to see Jessica Biel.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing with that one is that the cast is, like, new Hollywood hot. Like, for that one.
Yeah.
It's very of the 2000s, early 2000s.
The early 2000s.
We got a lot of those horror movies in 2000s, like, House of Wax.
Yes.
Oh, man. And I'm just so glad that they brought Paris Hilton into that film because, wow. Talk about great acting.
God.
She's great.
Side by side with the likes of Jared Padalecki.
And I watch it every damn year because I'm a loser.
I watch it multiple times a year. I probably watch it 2 or 3 times a year.
You watched it 7 times today.
Just today. I didn't work at all. Just House of Wax over and over on repeat. It's actually on right now.
But that does make me realize that Texas Chainsaw has only had that one actual reboot. Everything else has been a sequel of sorts.
Or a prequel. Remember, because the sequel to the reboot was Texas Chainsaw at the beginning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And it sucked. Everything else sucked. All of it sucked.
What are some other movies that came out in the 70s, though?
All right, so the next one I want to talk about is the Amityville Horror.
So, not a slasher. So, I guess we should qualify this as horror movies. Amityville Horror is supernatural slasher.
It's not a slasher?
It's like a supernatural thriller.
No, we can talk about it.
Let's talk about the husband.
I'll put this away.
I'm going to officially change the subject of this episode to slasher/horror. We're just going to include horror films in this.
Oh, I'm so glad we're including whores.
Ever since episode 1, baby.
I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Well, the next one that I would like to talk about is the Amityville Horror. This was a movie based on a novel, and I actually have one of the original copies. This is my mother's, and she let me have it. I hope she's forgotten that she gave it to me because she might want it back, but I'm keeping it, sorry.
No, Mom, I don't have that.
It's a very good book. It's actually a scary book. Like, it shook me a couple times reading it, and then the original film was great.
I think the thing that people forget about it is that, like, the movie is based off of the book. The book is actually about a true story. Like, they're recalling what is supposed to be true accounts of what's happened to this family in this house.
They were there for what, 28 days?
Like 30 days. Yeah, something like that.
It was, so the premise is this struggling young family finds this house listing for an impossibly beautiful house on the water. It has a boathouse. It's a huge, like, 5 or 6 bedroom house listed for an incredibly low price. And then they get there and the real estate agent's like, listen.
You literature buffs will like this, but they include the floor plan of the house in the book.
Yes, it's very fascinating.
That's cool. Because that helps me a lot.
It was interesting to see, especially since that book it's not supposed to be like, I mean, it is sort of a horror novel, but I mean, it's supposed to be a recanting of these people's story.
So the novel's more like true crimey.
Yeah, they were so shaken by the events that happened there that when they left, they never came back and they never got their belongings. Like, they never returned to the property. I did add this because it was mainly a 70s film, but I think we should just go ahead and talk about the reboot because, hello, Ryan Reynolds. This was rebooted in 2005, and I remember being in the theater like this when it showed him chopping wood outside and he was all sweaty, and then the scene where he's laying in the bathtub and you can see all 14 of his abs. It was just like, whew. Ooh.
He had just filmed Blade Trinity, and so he looked really, really good.
And that beard, beardos, we could never.
I'm still not like an abs person for the most part, but like, those are some abs to get excited about.
Sometimes you make an exception, and Ryan Reynolds is always that exception.
Rick and Morty call them cum gutters.
Ooh, Ryan Reynolds and, oh shit.
Debbie Reynolds. Halloween Town 7.
Absolutely.
Talk about a slasher film.
I'm on board.
On Disney Plus. Wasn't that reboot one of Chloe Grace Moretz's first roles? Will, you might know that one.
If she's in it, I'm telling you, I blocked out a lot. All of the reboot except for the shirtless Ryan Reynolds scenes are the only part of that movie I remember.
You know what? That's true.
Because the reboot's not good.
I like the idea, but for some reason it just does not grab my interest.
It goes off the rails too easy.
And I'm one of those people that I struggle with any haunting spirits,
Supernatural.
yeah, anything supernatural. Sorry, thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
You're welcome.
Yep. Amityville Horror does not make me get in focused at all. It's weird. I don't get an interest in them.
Same, but for different reasons.
So that leaves us with our final film that I've selected from the 70s, and it's the most exciting, I would argue, and that would be Halloween.
It's one of my favorites for sure.
In fact, this was Jamie Lee Curtis's acting debut, her very first role.
And she has just constantly remade it.
Also, out of all the teens, all the characters in the movie, she was the only actual teenager in the cast. She was still 19.
There are so many iconic scenes from that film that just still drive modern horror tropes. The scene with Michael as he's like sort of stalking Jamie Lee Curtis's character, and he's standing between the hedge, like where he's like halfway out of the hedge. Absolutely iconic. I saw a guy who did a cosplay and brought the fucking hedge. Like he had a whole hedge.
He had an entire hedge with him, yeah.
So the scene where she left the house, where she was babysitting the kids and trying to go across the street to check on her friends that were in that house, when she was walking across the street and the camera kept flipping back to her in the house, she was on an interview the other day she was on an interview that I caught somewhere. I don't know when it was. And she discussed about the director saying she should be vulnerable. And she didn't quite understand what she was saying or what the director was saying. And she's like, she went to watch it in the theater and some lady stood up and screamed, "Don't go into that house." And she's like, that is finally the moment that I figured out what that director meant. She's like, because everyone felt what was happening right then. And she's like, that's finally when I caught on to what the director was meaning.
She's sitting there in the theater and her wrist goes off and it says, "Spoiler alert." And she's like, "Oh, shit."
Oh God, this first Jen spoiler alert bracelet hurts.
There's also the scene where she's standing, what is it? She's in the second story of...
Oh, yeah, looking at the backyard.
And there's like the laundry that's on the thing. Like, how many times has that scene been redone in horror films?
Yeah.
Yeah, over and over again in different ways.
Or looking outside from the classroom and he's standing there and then she looks back and he's gone. How many times has that been redone?
At least 2.
Right, twice. Only twice.
Only twice.
And that movie does a great job of keeping you kind of on the edge because you think any minute he's going to jump out and get her at some point because he stalks her for so long.
You didn't know if she was going to be safe because the rules weren't really established, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All I know is that one crazy, angry doctor I love in every movie, he's always like, "Why are you not watching Michael? Ah!" And he's the only person that cares.
Dr. Loomis. Yeah.
Yes, that's his name.
The absolute way they end that movie with Dr. Loomis choosing to shoot Michael and then that officer stopping him. I mean, it's a really great scene because it means that Dr. Loomis has chosen to like forsake his oath and kill this man because he really believes he's pure evil. And then like the police fucking stop him. I'm surprised the police didn't shoot him 70 times.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Oh, his mask was white.
it's a William Shatner mask.
That is true. That's a true fact.
You know,
He was the OG Priceline negotiator.
he was. That's what he's known for. That's the only thing I remember. Just the Priceline commercials.
That's it. Nothing else.
At the end of the movie, he holds up his knife. He goes, "Priceline negotiator." It's the only line he has in the films.
And a plane lands. One more tiny fun fact about the original film. One of the children, her name is Lindsay. She is being babysat by the other babysitter across the street. She's just obsessed with the television because she's watching this movie. Fun fact about that actress, she grew up and she is actually Kyle Richards from The Real Housewives.
Yes. I know it very, very well. I've been watching all the promo that they're doing while also Real Housewives of Beverly Hills is currently airing. The reunion's on Wednesday. There's going to be like a 2-minute ad for the movie coming out, just like the last time they did it. They filmed some silly super tease where she was on her way to the reunion last season and Michael popped up like scaring her and she did a little bit of hokey pokey acting and then talked about how great it was to be filming with Jamie Lee Curtis again. And I'm really excited about this, but Jamie Lee Curtis was also on this season, and I'm sure she'll make another appearance just to remind us again that this is an NBC Universal movie and we have to promote.
I think my favorite part about this, the fact that Kyle Richards put side by side with Jamie Lee Curtis now, like, I mean, Jamie Lee Curtis has aged much better than Kyle Richards has.
Oh,
yeah.
Now you think she has?
I mean, look at them.
Kyle's 50-something.
Look at two side by side.
Yeah, look at Jamie Lee Curtis when she's like prettied up.
I'm gonna tweet her and Instagram her.
Tweet her. I'm recording a podcast right now, and
Kyle, a gay guy's being mean to you. Like always.
And it's not Andy Cohen.
Sure, I'm not the first person to be mean.
No, I've also said mean things to her too, so, you know.
I've tweeted all shit talk.
I think for me, part of it is the fact that like Jamie Lee Curtis seems like one of those celebrities who hasn't really done any work to herself, and that's always very endearing to me.
Just Activia.
Are you saying Kyle Richards has done work to herself?
Haven't we all?
Only a little bit so far. A fun random fact from that related, she broke her nose. Kyle did filming the last one, so she got a nose job. So her nose looks different in this new movie.
Yeah, that's why.
I'm going to start saying that.
Was it from that street, the scene with the stream?
You know, I don't know if it was from that whole part that they cut from the movie, which, if we're talking about the reboot, that's the most jarring part of that sequel from the reboot, is that there's a whole, like, scene missing.
The new movies are not actually a reboot. They are sequels. The very first film is a sequel to the first movie.
Yeah, it came out in 2018.
Speaking of sequels, I love it that Halloween 3...
Season of the Witch.
Yeah, Season of the Witch. I love how just, like, wildly different that one is.
I love that one.
It is a good movie, though. A standalone film. It's great.
I do like that one. I don't know why I like that one, but I like how different it is.
Violence against children.
Joe, what's in the next decade?
Oh, we're not going to talk about the real Beef reboot for Halloween? The terrible Rob Zombie one?
Yeah, those were actual reboots.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot about that one.
Me too.
I hate it.
It was not good. Yeah, I didn't like it but
I'm not a Rob Zombie fan.
I think Rob Zombie goes for like gore porn, and I'm not always about that.
And I don't care for it.
Yeah, it was too realistic.
So then we agree that we don't recommend the reboot, but we recommend the sequels.
Certain sequels, yes.
Some sequels.
So, as we continue through the horror and slasher genre, it's getting a lot more healthy, it's getting more exposure, a lot more people are getting interest in it, right? So we go to the 80s, and we're going to start off right in 1980 with the original Friday the 13th. Was this the first summer camp slasher? Because I think Sleepaway Camp was in 83.
I thought it was the year before. Because Friday the 13th was piggybacking off something.
No, Sleepaway Camp came out in 83.
So Friday the 13th was interesting because it featured this group of teens that were going to work at a summer camp, a fictional summer camp called Camp Crystal Lake. And it kind of set the stage for that trope of horny teenagers. Well, no, Halloween did that. It kind of piggybacked up the success of Halloween with all these horned up teenagers that couldn't focus on anything except for sex. So they were letting their guard down, they were getting naked and bumping uglies, and then the killer showed up and got them.
But you do know what Friday the 13th gave us in very original form is the crazy old man warning you against going somewhere, because that happens to the kids as
That's
they drive
right.
into camp.
Also, the subtle message of all of these movies is that if you're a horny teenager, you are letting your guard down and you will die.
If you have sex, you will die.
Thank you, religion.
How many times has the old rundown gas station been featured?
I really enjoy the original Friday the 13th. I think it's set up really well. I think Mrs. Voorhees shows up at just the right time. She's like, oh, I'm Mrs. Voorhees, a friend of the Christies.
What a twist ending. Like, I wonder how many people saw that coming, because that was quite the reveal at the end.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I would be curious to know what people really thought back then, because of course we're coming into it like already later beyond it, since we're not in our, 50s like Anthony.
This isn't the roast episode.
You look good.
Spoiler alert.
You and Kyle Richards are doing great.
That's worse.
Don't look at the hands.
You're so nosy.
I hate this episode.
Starting to love it real quick.
So, as we all know, Friday the 13th spawned a bunch of sequels, like comical even. Was there a reboot?
There was.
But before we move on to the reboot, we should say that Friday the 13th did a few things differently than some of the original slasher movies did. Or I say it's more in the vein of Psycho, where it put us in the killer's point of view.
That's right.
Yes.
So we are watching from who we later find out is Mrs. Voorhees' perspective of these kills and watching the reactions of the victim from her perspective.
Well, and then it does delve into the supernatural, because you find out later that he has superhuman strength. He's not really all the way human.
The original movie basically brings him back at the very end of the film.
Well, and it also made you scared of going into the woods and being a horny teenager.
Only for a little bit.
Only for a little bit.
Lots of subtle messages in there.
Just at summer camp.
But it did get a reboot in, what year was that, Will? 2010?
2009.
Okay, yes. I remember I had just turned 17, I think, because I was able to see it by myself.
Produced by Michael Bay and also starring Jared Padalecki.
I like that film.
Yes, I do. I like it as well.
Any of its problems were suffered from the fact that it was directed by Michael Bay.
It wasn't directed, it was produced by him.
It was produced by, yeah. I think he tried to make it like definitely feel like a Transformer movie at some points in that kind of like style of his, because it even has that guy from Transformers. If you remember the first one, he was dating Megan Fox's character, the blonde guy.
I was like, Shia LaBeouf wasn't in that movie.
Shia LaBeouf. He was Jason.
Actual cannibal Shia LaBeouf. He wasn't even playing a part. They just put him out in the woods.
No. Yep. Those people are really dead. They all died. That's why you haven't seen them work.
Now, I will say, though, the reboot, I really enjoyed how it sort of started out. Like, they really did a good job in the beginning of that film, setting it up to be a Jason film. It took a turn at the end for me.
Yeah, they tried to give him like an anti-hero kind of spin slightly at the end. Like, it's okay he's doing this. He's troubled.
Yeah, he shot that girl with an arrow in the head while she was in the lake, but that's okay.
Shit happens.
It was okay. She was topless. She deserved it.
She deserved it. She was a whore.
It's true. Every time everyone was very vulnerable and nude, that's when they died.
That's why you should wear clothes and don't have sex, kids. Now, excuse me, while I get naked and go have sex.
But yeah, no. Reboot good. Sad they never continued it. Who knows what's happening with that franchise.
So yeah, reboot recommended.
I could take another reboot of Friday the 13th. I think that if it's executed well, you know what? Give it to fucking Jordan Peele. Let him have it. I want to see what he does.
Oh my god. Anything Jordan Peele does, though, I'm going to watch. I'm sad that I haven't watched Nope yet.
So then, trouncing right along, just like a bunch of horny teenagers, we get next to 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Wonderful.
Very good. Still holds up. Except for the audio.
What a classic.
And the fact that Johnny Depp is mildly problematic these days, but like...
But he's not really in the movie a lot.
Johnny Depp's first role. He's Nancy's boyfriend.
So fun fact, Nancy, who is played by Heather Langenkamp, and director Wes Craven were in the room during that blood scene. Put a room on a device to spin it. When they were doing it, they were shooting blood out of that hole and the room began to turn. And they didn't mean for it to. So you can see the blood start to curve in that scene.
Yep, that one shot.
Yep, exactly. And really fun fact, Wes Craven and Heather Langenkamp were doused in the fake blood.
Why was she there? She wasn't even like on in that. She just watching. Good for her.
Main killer is a man called Freddy Krueger. And he's played by Robert Englund. You never see his real face, and he's just dolled up. He was, what was his story? He was like a janitor that like killed a bunch of kids.
Yeah, it's complicated.
Yeah, I felt like there was a child predator situation.
And then a bunch of the parents got together because the cops didn't do anything.
Yeah, it was like indirectly implied, I feel like. But it changes from sequel to sequel, his like slight backstory of that.
And they don't dive into it too heavily in the first one. And I think the thing that a lot of people forget about the first film is that Freddy Krueger isn't seen on screen a lot in that movie.
No. It's a lot of the hand.
It's the tension of the film that builds up to just like his small appearances that make it great.
And the dream sequences.
But that's another one I haven't seen in forever.
Well, it's interesting the way they film it because they show the dream sequence where they're being killed, but then as perspective in the audience, or when Nancy discovers it, we see them being killed by some kind of unseeable thing because they're sleeping. So we don't see what's happening in their dream, and then they die in their dream, which means they die in real life too.
If you die in your dreams, you die for real.
If you poop in your dreams, you poop for real.
You poop for real.
Exactly what popped in my head.
Oh no, Lois.
But we also got a lot of iconic scenes from that movie. The classic scene where I think it's Heather is in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And the claw glove comes up.
And then, of course, the question of whether or not Nightmare on Elm Street inspired Home Alone with the way that Heather Langenkamp attacks Freddy Krueger by pulling him out into the real world and setting up all those fucking Rube Goldberg traps around her house.
Yeah, it's very Home Alone.
Home Alone was like, we're going to turn this into a Christmas movie.
And they put a Santa hat on Freddy and called it a day.
There's an idea for the next reboot. Christmas Friday the 13th, or Christmas Nightmare on Elm Street.
A Nightmare at the North Pole.
Christmas Street.
Christmas Street.
Home Alone with Freddy.
There you go.
On Hallmark.
Well, that just sounds like a romantic comedy.
His sweater is red and green.
It is, isn't it?
So, the original film received a reboot in 2010. and it was kind of just a shot-for-shot remake again. And I think my favorite part of the reboot was they dove more into how the parents killed him in the beginning, and it just shows him running towards this giant place where they're going to burn him alive in the incinerator, and you just see like all these mid-90s like Cadillacs and Buicks driving and chasing him because it had to be the 90s, because then the track would have been to 2010. I just thought it was kind of a cool visual representation of how Nancy's mom in the original film told her how they killed him, but they didn't really dive on it. I thought it was cool that they took the time to kind of put that on film and show that to everyone.
I do appreciate backstories.
I don't think it was necessary, though. That's one. The problem with that one for me is that they try to ground it again too far into reality.
I liked getting to see why he became a monster.
So, original Nightmare on Elm Street, watch. Reboot, watch it if you don't. I mean, you could watch it. It's worth one watch.
I'll recommend the reboot.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, why not?
It's too serious.
Oh, I've got one more for the 80s, and it's probably a good one too because it came out the same year I came out of my mom's womb in 1988. Child's Play.
I like Child's Play. I think that movie scared the absolute fuck out of me when I was a kid.
I mean, as a kid, yeah.
It's a really interesting premise, I think, and I thought it was a really original story too.
I will be honest and say that I've only seen Child's Play once, and I don't really remember it very well.
It's been ages since I've seen it. I struggle a lot with Child's Play because my brain cannot get away from the 1998 Bride of Chucky, where there was the female Chucky doll voiced by Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yep.
I never, ever, ever can get that movie out of my head just because Jennifer Tilly's voice will never go away from me.
Well, a little backstory on Child's Play, the original. It's a criminal named Charles Lee Ray, and he's trying to get away from a cop, and he realizes that he's not going to be able to get away. So what he does is he takes his soul and buries it into a playful, seemingly good guy's doll, who's named Chucky. Yeah, he uses voodoo. He transfers his soul into this new toy, this new crazed toy that's coming out. And so then there's a mother who's struggling, and she knows that her son wants the doll, but she can't afford the doll. But then she finds the doll cheaper because it's, an open box or something, or it's been returned. I can't remember what the...
There was blood all over it.
Yeah. And then her son loves the doll. It's great at first, and then you start to think, oh no, what's going on here? Because the doll starts to act weird and, get up on its own, moving on its own, and then it takes a turn for the worse and becomes homicidal.
Well, as dolls do.
Look at Barbie. As an adult watching the scene where they're just like fighting with this doll, I'm just like, okay.
That's true method acting. That's when you have to really bring it to a performance.
That's when you gotta hire the best. Why is Meryl Streep not in this movie?
Well, quick fun fact. The criminal's name is Charles Lee Ray, and that name is derived from the names of notorious killers Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, and James Earl Ray.
Oh.
So that's how they came up with that name.
Wow.
Okay.
Anyways, the modern day reboot of Child's Play
Came out in 2019, and it starred Aubrey Plaza as the mother, which I thought was a really great choice. I thought she did a great job. Now, they had to update the premise to modern times, so they made the backstory that a disgruntled factory worker deleted the Happy program in this one doll. So that meant it wanted to commit atrocities, I guess. So now in this film, there's an app that it makes it essentially a smart toy. So now it communicates with your phone, and then that's how you kind of control the good guy doll in this iteration of the film.
It connects to your entire, isn't it like Cantlin or something like that? It's the company name, your entire Cantlin universe.
And so Aubrey Plaza's character, Karen, ironically enough, her name is, she's also a struggling mother in this one. She's working at a department store, and someone returns the doll because they say it's defective. And she's like, oh shit, can I get an open box discount on that one? Can I just have this one? And then so she gets the doll, brings it home, and then that's where it sets all the events in motion.
I like the reboot a lot, actually. I love the...
I actually don't remember if I watched it or not.
I liked it a lot, too. Well, in the original film, a lot of the original events take place, and they're just centered in the actual apartment, whereas this second one, this reboot, they actually go to the department store, and then there's it's like a Black Friday sale, right? And then they drop all the doors down and then there's like this crazy massacre scene. And I thought that was an interesting way to bring it in.
I think that one for me, while I like it because it's something different, that doesn't make it good. And also the fact, I guess the production behind the scenes of that one gets me, because like no one originally was involved in that movie, and you also still have the original franchise continuing, so it's just a little weird. Like it feels like a very much like money hungry move that they made that movie, but it was good.
And I could see it from that perspective. But I think if we're rating it on if we're giving it laurels on how it stands up as a film, I like it. And I definitely recommend watching it.
I think it was a good way to modernize it and make it bring it into 2019 as a connected smart device.
If you had to replace the voice of Chucky with anyone that isn't Brad Dourif, Mark Hamill was a great choice.
Yes.
I don't think anybody else would have been able to pull it off.
Robert Loggia.
Isn't Robert Loggia dead?
Well, if they can use audio clips of other things, just like they're going to do with James Earl Jones.
I'm going to kill you,
Andy.
Just from that one snippet of Family Guy.
No.
Oh, so an impression of Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia.
No.
I'm your best friend, Robert Loggia.
Robert Loggia.
It's me, Robert Loggia. For Rob. No, I'm kidding.
Thank you.
We can't do it again.
Yeah, we can't burn that joke out. It's too long to burn out.
Do you want to get sued?
So yeah, I recommend the reboot too.
Yeah, I'd recommend it. It's a great film.
Yeah, sure.
Glowing recommendations from Will today.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't jump off a bridge if someone forced me to watch it, but yeah.
I mean, if you want to ignore everything about the film, it's a good film.
Just watch the TV show.
If you've been drinking a lot and maybe a little high, yeah, you'll love it.
Oh, actually, that's a very good way to describe that, because I'm pretty sure I watched it very drunk. And then again, high.
First one, then the other, then both.
We'll see. Maybe I'll come around on it again. Who knows?
Anyways, what's our 90s movies, Joe?
Ooh, because I'm ready.
That's right. It's time to close the book on the 80s and go into the 90s. The first film we're going to talk about from the 90s is the iconic, legendary Scream.
Yes. Drew Barrymore opening.
The opening phone scene.
Yep.
Iconic.
What do we even say about this film? It's perfect. It's wonderful in every single way. Nothing is wrong with it whatsoever. There is absolutely no...
I do love this movie.
The greatest part about that opening scene is that they featured Drew Barrymore so heavily in marketing campaigns, and like she's prominently featured on the poster, and she's dead. Super dead right off the bat.
Yeah. Like, they made it look like she was such an important character to the film, and that's it. You watch that and she's gone. And also, nice touch that whenever she was discovered by her parents, she was still steaming from her insides because it was cold outside. Also, Neve Campbell, right?
Neve Campbell. But she was kind of rising in her popularity at that point in time anyways, because that came out in the same year as The Craft.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. Don't go too far into The Craft. You don't want to be thrown into the...
The iconic cringe movie, The Craft. John Riley.
You heard it here, folks. Anthony said it's cringe.
Breaking news twice now.
I love that film. Jesus fucking Christ.
You know, she was wearing a wig through that whole movie.
Also gave us the great scene where Rose McGowan is going into the garage to get more beer.
With the world's strongest garage door opener.
Oh, yes.
And the world's strongest nipples poking through that sweater. There's always that meme that comes around every year that's like, are you ready for Halloween? And it says me, and it's her with her hard nipples showing through the sweater.
I have to say, though, that is my favorite scene of that film because it was just such a creative way to kill off a character.
It was, but I was like, this garage door opener has no safety features at all.
I know. While, yes, it was unrealistic, I do appreciate the effort to go for a different direction. Oh, and remember how they actually attacked like a decent higher up figure because they killed the principal. That's right. So they didn't just like...
The Fonz. They killed the Fonz.
That's right. They didn't just land on like the measly little people in the group. The spontaneous principal died and was strung from the field goal of the football field. You just didn't see it.
Real penchant for stringing people up, huh?
He loves a good show. Good job, Scream Guy. Zzz.
Ghostface.
Skeet Ulrich. I have some notes for you personally, but great job in this film.
No notes. He did it right. Perfect.
Jay wrote down, fantastic job stringing up all of your victims. Also, I want to point out, like, just a fun thought in my head on all of this stuff. I know he keeps stringing up all his victims, but imagine these are all behind this, like, nothing. You don't actually see him stringing these people up. And I just think about the struggles of dealing with just a limp, heavy ass body. And this one guy trying to string up all these people in weird ways. I'm just like, wait a minute. How long did that take him?
I can't help but think about that opening scene with Drew Barrymore.
The upper body strength alone.
Yeah, right? And Drew Barrymore had banging tits in that film.
No other film, just that film.
Charlie's Angels.
I saw them and they made me scream.
But, like, think about that, because her parents come home, they hear her on the phone, then they go outside because they hear her on the phone, and he has taken the time to put her body in the tree at this point. Like he was just like, you know what? In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah, it's like 30 seconds.
Maybe he already had, like, the noose set, because he was there, obviously, for a while planning this. So he had the noose, like, set up already and knew that was going to be his goal, was to string her up. So then it's just like...
I'm not questioning necessarily the logistics of it.
Well, I am.
So much as I am commending the killer's wherewithal to make that happen.
I need the murder blueprint.
They're like, if you care about something, you make the time.
When you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
The most disappointing part of that film was probably the wasted Jiffy Pop on the stove.
I need to know how she was going to finish making it, though, before I commit to that answer. Because what if she was just going to, like, put it instantly in the bowl?
Oh, God. Oh, my God. I'm just like, nothing.
I don't trust Drew Barrymore to know how to make popcorn. Do you?
Just some caucasity seasoning.
Tastes like kernels stuck between my teeth.
Oh, God.
This year, 2022, we were gifted with not a reboot, but actually a sequel. We got another iteration in a series.
Scream has not had any reboots because it's perfect just the way it is. Don't fucking touch it.
Yet. You know, we'll get rebooted in like 10 years.
We're getting sequels that sort of continue the story. And I think one of the nice things about Scream is that it can be done with new characters ad infinitum.
I think the next reboot, she pulls her mask off and it's just Courtney Cox in Scream 3 with those bangs.
That's what I wanted it to be from the beginning, was that it's Courtney Cox.
It's the barber.
I always think of that Twitter post that was like, if you're ever feeling bad about yourself, just remember Courtney Cox had those bangs in Scream 3. And it's literally Courtney Cox responding to it. And she said, hey, what the fuck?
Hey. So bad.
It was terrible. And I know that was a very temporary style back then, but it was not approved.
I was a little worried about the sequel not being as good as it was, but I thought it was a great way to kind of close the book, for now. I thought it was a good way to do it.
It's not really even closing the book. It's sort of reopening the book.
I say the new one comes out next year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, for now, at least for now, with what we have for now, I'll go ahead and recommend the sequel.
Yeah, for me, for sure.
Oh, yeah, 100%. There's not a bad Scream movie.
Moving right along in the 90s, the very next year, we were graced with I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Riding off the coattails of Scream.
Hanging on to them and just riding it. More 90s teens, more hijinks, more crime.
Jennifer loves huge tits.
Oh my gosh, I barely remember this movie at all. Just barely.
I haven't seen it in a very, very long time.
The premise of I Know What You Did Last Summer is that four friends are driving one night after being out of the beach and partying together by themselves. I think
in their Beamer.
Yeah, in the Beamer, and they're all very drunk and high, and then they hit somebody with their car and presumably have killed that person. And so, what is it? They throw the body off the...
They throw it off of a wharf so they can avoid going to the police and potentially ruining their lives.
Yeah, they're worried about ruining their lives with manslaughter. It's just a little bit of manslaughter. I mean, white people do it all the time.
Just a little bit of manslaughter,
Amongst friends, who hasn't?
I mean, they did... I know I keep referring back to this, but it's just always a spoof movie. But Scary Movie did a wonderful job of...
I did want to talk about...
spoofing both of these films, Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Cindy, man, she really had to be both of those main girls, and the way they kind of...
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Fuck you!
I think because Scary Movie spoofs, particularly I Know What You Did Last Summer, so well, like, that's kind of what everyone remembers.
Remembers it more for...
Instead of the actual horror movie.
Yes, I remember it more for that, even though it had so much of Scream's plotline to it.
I hope you don't mind if I fake it.
And scene.
Okay, guys, before the month's over, can we plan like a Friday night or something that we do this?
Yeah.
Please, yes.
I want to come up and drink and just do these movies.
So then, not only a sequel, there was also an Amazon Studios release of a little series.
Oh, I forgot. They canceled that already. Yeah.
They ended it after one season.
It was fine.
It doesn't sound great.
The series was okay.
So, original, sure.
Series?
It's not worth it. I wouldn't waste your time.
Let me save you 10 boobless hours.
That's what everyone on this podcast is here for. The boob.
We talk about boobs a lot on this podcast for being...
3 gay men.
Anyways. All right, what's our next topic, Joe?
All right, so I've got one more film for the 90s. It's our last film of the evening, and it's Urban Legend.
Okay.
I don't remember this one.
Released in 1998, this movie was about a group of college students that were they were starting to get killed off by various urban legends, and that was the way they were being killed off. And the main girl started to sense this, and then she kind of has to race against time to save all of her friends or to avoid being killed by an urban legend herself.
Jared Leto is in this film.
Yes, he is.
Which,
oh, yeah.
Strike one. But to make up for it, Denise Richards is in this film.
Yes, she is.
Yes, and you know I love anything she does because I'm a Denise Richards fan, apparently.
Oh my god, it's not Denise Richards, it's fucking Rebecca Gayheart. Well, there goes my fucking brain.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Cut that whole thing. Cut it.
Oh, how embarrassing.
But she's styled just like Denise Richards in that movie.
She had great 90s hair in it, too. It was perfect. You know who else is in it?
Josh Jackson.
Tara Reid from Sharknado.
Oh shit, she is from Sharknado. That's of Sharknado fame.
Of Sharknado
That's
fame.
Tara Reid of Sharknado fame. But Robert Englund plays their English professor because these are writing students. They're film writers.
That was a fun fact I had about it.
I'd recommend watching it at least once because it is a fun watch. It's a fun watch. I wouldn't say that it was worth a sequel, but it still got like 2 sequels, right?
Did it?
It was fun to see the urban legends, played out. I would say if somehow we could just watch like the 5-minute clips of each of those urban legends, that would be a better movie than the interwoven story.
This would be done really well as a sort of anthology series.
Yes.
You know what? Give these to, what's his name? Ryan Murphy.
No.
It'll make all of them hot.
What's Evan Peters going to do it this week?
And they'll all be gay, but all the actors will be straight.
No, because he's not going to know how to end it if it's a whole season.
It did receive 2 sequels. It received the sequel Urban Legends, which is a sequel to Urban Legend. And then it received a sequel called Urban Legend Bloody Mary, which was a different premise entirely. It leaned into the supernatural.
I did not watch it. I remember it coming out, but I did not watch it.
Urban Legend, the female orgasm will be the next one.
Well, it's gaining new life soon because there is a reboot in the works. It's going to be a TV series. It actually premieres on October 28th of this year.
What network?
Is Ryan Murphy spearheading it?
It's under the creative guidance of a master of horror, Eli Roth.
Oh, no. He's real hit or miss, though.
He's hit or miss. Real hit or miss.
That's why I'm happy it's going to be a series instead of an actual movie itself. So that's all I have for Urban Legend.
Well, is it time for a commercial?
It is time for a commercial.
I think we've reached the end of our films and it's time for a commercial.
And now for a special message on virginity.
Hey, all you sexually charged people out there. Tired of all the news about serial killers? Worried your life is at risk? Don't want to go camping in the deep woods? Panicked about every noise you hear while babysitting at that house? Try Virginity. It'll keep you safe all month of October from notorious serial killers. Sex makes you weak. Virginity makes you strong. For better clarity to escape and a distraction-free life, throw out that old urge for sex and try virginity. Side effects may include crankiness, blue balls, raging outbursts, public humiliation, no enjoyment, Superman syndrome of pleasuring yourself, random crying, loss of vision. You should talk to your priest if you have urges so they can guilt you into continuing virginity. Virginity, the serial killer prevention plan.
Gosh, you guys, it's so important to keep your virginity and to stay pure for the Lord.
To keep your life.
Yes, because I don't want to die too early, and like they do in horror films, so I'm going to stay pure forever.
Yeah, that's why.
This is a purity ring on my finger.
I resign to the fact that I die at the beginning and or right near the end.
Jay, do you have something for us to check out today?
I do have something for us to check out. Yes, so I recently discovered this fun little podcast, and it's perfect for this Halloween season, and it's called The Last Podcast on the Left.
Love it. Great title.
I love it. It is actually, if I recall right, it's 3 guys. I'm trying to get to the podcast now so I can finish this, and I'll start my little phrase again over.
Oh my God, not even fucking prepared for your own segment.
Fuck off. Sorry, I had it open and I forgot I closed it.
3 guys on a podcast. I don't know.
That sounds like too many.
Hasn't it been done to death?
It's called The Last Podcast on the Left, and I believe on Friday they released their 508th episode, so they've been around for, I think I've heard them say 9 years now, so they've been around for quite a while, and I actually kind of enjoy it because they go through, from the little I've still heard of it, because it's recently found for me, but they tend to go through some horror stories that are claimed as real, and they'll discuss them, and then they always do commentary like we do, and it's pretty fun. I want to point out a very, very important fact. They have been around for, I think, 9 years, and they have a 4.9 star rating, which is the exact same rating we have, where we differ a smidge on Spotify.
Wait,
this is on Spotify.
what fucking asshole?
Hey, who's
fucking
rating
asshole?
less
Who?
than 5? It's Will.
It's Will. Will's raising his hand for anyone who can't see. But I do want to make a comparison that we have 10 reviews so far on Spotify, and they have 48.8 thousand.
Holy shit.
So we're tracking more poorly. We're tracking to do worse.
But it's got to be a good podcast to be a 4.9 out of... I mean, we're coming up on 46,000 reviews, so kudos to them.
I mean, you'd say that, but somebody out there didn't rate us 5 fucking stars on Spotify.
It's probably because we're annoying.
I'm not going to change it.
I'm going to be hostile until you change your rating. Anyways, continue with your something to check out with their 4.9 stars and 1 million reviews.
I highly recommend them. They're actually pretty interesting. I've been stuck on them a little bit. It's good for, especially right now during the month of October.
And if they want to recommend us, feel free.
Feel free if you're listening. All right. Today's horror story comes from Sam out of Montana.
It comes from Sam?
It comes from Sam.
Comes from Sam.
In Montana.
Spooky Montana.
And Sam says...
Hi, Sam.
Ooh! And Sam says, okay, so I was off at college and was with a roommate and wanted some fun because after being in a strict Christian home, I wanted to rebel.
Hell yeah.
So I did Craigslist.
Hell no.
And found a guy that was in an apartment not too far from campus. The guy didn't share any pictures and was super weird.
Sam.
I know. I want to feel like I feel like we should have spooky background music. That's a brilliant idea.
I'll do that. I'll add spooky. Yeah, I'll do it.
Okay, so he found Craigslist. The guy didn't share any pictures. Super weird. So basically, I was like, okay, yeah, I'll come over since I have 2 hours between classes. I went over, and it looked like a less fortunate neighborhood and had bars on the windows, which isn't common here, and was an older building that was worn down. Did he go to a jail?
Right?
There were aggressive dogs, and the complex smelled like weed. So I was shaking and I was nervous. The guy said...
I'm shaking right now.
I know. The guy said he'd leave his door unlocked and that I just needed to walk in. I did so. It was so dark that there was only light coming from a plug in a nightlight in the bathroom.
Oh no.
There were bed dividers and voodoo shit all over the living room.
Oh no.
I walked through the multiple beaded dividers that went into the bedroom.
Beaded dividers.
Oh man, he sounds classy.
This is stressing me out.
There's so many red flags at this point, yeah.
So loud, too. There's no way to escape silently.
The good news is that we know that Sam is still alive to tell us the story.
Maybe. We've seen supernatural technology movies. I remember Unfriended. Hi, Sam from Beyond the Grave.
Everything smelled bad, like old weed and old underwear, even that old piss smell, and some sweat like they hadn't washed their sheets.
Oh. Wow.
How quickly we all forget college. Come on.
The guy asked, oh yeah, no, I never went to that. I'm sorry.
Never that level.
I would have walked in and went, ugh, time to change. The guy asked if I wanted to smoke, which I declined because I didn't want my roommate to know.
Ooh.
Spooky marijuana.
So we played and we got into it a bit, mainly him servicing me, and I can say this, and we fucked raw. Even though I didn't ask his status, sweating emoji. So we ended the interaction and I left and showered for 30 minutes in my dorm bathroom. That was super awkward.
So,
How did you make it out?
Sam, kudos to you for being a horny college student, because Lord knows we have all been there.
But you know what the lesson here is that we learned from all of our past movies? He definitely didn't get undressed, or else he would have been killed.
They fucked through the beads. Got it.
Different kind of beads. Give me a lawnmower.
Oh god, that just makes my stomach churn thinking about that one. I'm not at all mocking Sam, but
No, honestly, when I think about the number of people that I just had random sex with,
I don't know how I survived college. I'll also come out here right now and say that if someone asks you what your body count is, Halloween themed, if someone asks you how many people you slept with, fuck that. You don't owe them shit. You don't need to answer that question. That's a bullshit answer.
I'm gonna hang my fucking hat on that number. Fuck you. The amount of people I sleep with is a fucking achievement.
Yes.
yeah, that's like a trophy.
I used to have a list in my notes app. I don't have that list anymore.
I wish you still did.
Well, very well done, Sam. I'm so glad you're still with us.
Yes, good job, Sam. You got what you needed, and you got a really nice, long, scolding bathing afterwards. So kudos, you're pleased and clean. Oh, God, my stomach is, like, upset thinking about that, how nervous I would be.
That's actually okay, because I hear the music coming back on.
Oh, yes, and the music's gonna make me feel a lot better.
That's the scariest part of this whole episode is that we have to go back to work.
Thank you guys so much for joining us again for episode 16. This has been wonderful and fun. Thank you, Will, so much for coming on and guesting with us today.
Yes, we've enjoyed your input on a subject that you are definitely
Almost as passionate about it as I am about Beverly Hills.
passionate
Housewives.
about.
Thank you guys so much for coming back to this episode. Make sure that you go and you rate 5 stars and just review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening to your podcasts.
Pay attention and comment and like on our socials, and please, we're still looking for your horror stories, so message us anywhere on our socials.
That was quite the first story to start with.
You can also email us your horror stories at beardsandsundries@gmail.com. Sundries is spelled Sundries, just for those that don't Google those things.
I'm a Christian illiterate, so thank you.
Once again, guys, we have loved all the support you guys show for us. It really does make our day. It's so much fun getting to interact with you guys and meet everyone. We just are loving the journey so far.
Yes, thank you so much. We love you. We will see you next week for episode 17. Mwah.
We love this a
Bye.
lot. Thank you, Will. Bye.
Thank
You're
you,
welcome.
Will.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, listeners. On this week's episode, we make several jokes about virginity. And as a group of guys who loves to have fun and joke every week with our listeners, we want to take a moment to talk briefly about the importance of sexual mental health. We know that physical sexual health is a very high priority and very often discussed, but sexual mental health is not often brought up. For our young listeners, your virginity is yours, and nobody else's to control. No matter what opinions are said around you, there is no shame in your decision. For our sexually experienced listeners, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. Your body will always be in your control, and you are the one that's obligated to make the necessary decision if you should have sex or not. Do not be coerced or forced into any sexual activity that you feel unprepared for. Always demand respect and love for yourself. You are the only one that has the power to decide what you are ready for. Love yourself because you are the most important person in your life that needs that love. We love you, and thank you so much for being our friends.